All right, everybody, we're going to start the Dixie Fire Collaborative meeting. So if you could take a seat, and there's probably time at the end if you want to finish up doing your dots. That would work great. Thank you. All right, I'm Marcia Roby, and I am one of the members of the steering committee for the Dixie Fire Collaborative. And before we actually start that, I wanted to mention so there are about 14 members and affiliates on the steering committee. And so I would like to recognize them. So if they would stand up as I call their name, that would be Sue Weber and Clint Copley, Jane Braxton Little, Cass Porter, Sherry Pryor, Shelby Leung, Maria Stout, Matt Fogarty, Dax Albrecht, Lyda Shogun, Tyler Pugh, and me. And I asked everybody to send me the hours that they had spent volunteering for the Dixie Fire Collaborative just for this month, between the last one and this month. And I want to let you know that these people have put in 580 volunteer hours for you. So I would like to, yeah. All right, thank you. All right, that was my welcome. Well, Dixie Long-Term Recovery Group, known as the DFC, Dixie Fire Collaborative, is a collaboration of nonprofit, faith-based, local, state, or national organizations that work together to share information and resources that can help address the needs of individuals and families affected by the Dixie wildfire. The stated mission of the DFC is working to fulfill the unmet needs of Dixie Fire survivors and helping to rebuild the communities of Greenville, Indian Falls, Canyon Dam, and Warner Valley. All programs shall support this mission and purpose, and all who work for or on behalf of the DFC shall understand and adhere to that purpose. I'd like to start out with Sue Weber with an update.
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, the first big one is I spoke on Thursday to Mr. Chow, and the post office is going to be built. They're going to start doing backfill in about 2 weeks. They're waiting for the ground to harden, and then they'll start pouring the foundation and start building. I'll make sure that we get a picture of it and post it. I'll hang it in where the Dixie Fire Collaborative office is, over at the professional building, but then I'll also make sure it's on a slide for our next meeting so everybody can actually see the structure. So that's super exciting. The other thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is there are some grants out there that are being run through the county. The first one is reallocated funds from ARPA. You can write or apply for up to $10,000, and $270,000 is designated to businesses countywide, and $270,000 is dedicated to nonprofits. It's a very easy application process. You can go online and follow through that. Zach, I know you're here somewhere. Zach is overseeing at the county the grants, and if you have any questions more detailed, he can give them to you. They also are reallocating CARE dollars. That will be opened at the end of next week. Those applications, you'll be able to start to apply. The ARPA deadline is April 30th. The CARE deadline is probably going to be late May or early June. You can apply. This is for businesses with less than 5 employees. There is potential for those who have just started up also, and you can apply for up to 50,000. It starts as a loan, but if you meet all the requirements, then the loan is forgiven. So then it becomes more like a grant. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew those two. If anyone has any questions or want support in the writing process, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help with that. The next thing, I'm looking for 1 or 2 volunteers regarding the work. Catherine Stouffer reached out about 4 weeks ago, and we started to strategize, how can we get organized to really push at the federal and state level the tax issue so that settlements are not taxed. So there is a new tax bill, HR 176. One ran through all last year, died in December, is back at the table, but we really need to strategize this. We really need to get as many people writing letters, doing videos, potentially going down to the Capitol, meeting with representatives. She has a beautiful plan of exactly the steps we should be doing. And I would like to find 1 or 2 volunteers who could help organize that. So if you're interested, please reach out to me today, and I'll get everybody connected. But that, I think, is super crucial. And I think that's all my updates. Thank you.
And now Sherry Pryor with our DFC Treasurer's Report. Oh, and cast.
We want to hijack the meeting for just a moment, because this is the last day that Clint Cobley is officially a co-chair. He and Sue became co-chairs to start the DFC shortly after the fire, and has worked, I don't know how many hours, many hours trying to make this whole thing work. And just all the volunteer time that he's put in, we thought somebody ought to step up and just say thank you today. So Sherry baked a loaf of bread, which is as much pay as any volunteer is ever going to get.
Yeah. Great. I have just a few words. But first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for always being involved in your community's future. As Cass said, this is my last week as the co-chair. It's been an incredible, humble, profound, and learning experience for me. Not only to work with Sue as the co-chair and learning on a day-by-day basis how to resurrect a community from a disaster. It's really been quite an experience. My life is richer, having to get to know many of you, most of you, and especially be part of your struggle. It's been very, very profound for me, even though I don't live here. I live up in Hamilton Branch, but I feel this has become more of my home than any place here in Plumas County, because I know way more people in Greenville, and Crescent Mills, and Genesee Valley than I do up in Hamilton Branch. So it's been a pleasure. I'm going to be involved in the disaster recovery as much as ever, probably just in a little bit different capacity. So I'm not going away. You're not able to get rid of me just yet. But I do want to say that part of my job with the Sierra Small Business Development Center has been to service 3 counties, and that's Plumas, Lassen, and Modoc counties. And I spent a lot of my time here in Plumas County, obviously because of what's happened here. But I do need to get back up to Lassen and Plumas counties, because as you know, rural America has lots of struggles, and that's where my job is and belongs. So the last thing I want to say is that your road to recovery has, and will continue to be difficult. Stick together, make your voices be heard, and stay involved. I'm a grassroots type of guy. I come from a farm in a small community, much, much smaller than Greenville. I encourage you to let your leaders know how you feel and what you want. Don't settle for less. This is your hometown. Keep it that way. Thank you.
And now Sherry.
Thank you. I've got my, Taylor did a wonderful job redoing my slides, so I'm happy to give my report this morning with my new slides. These are, this is the Dixie Fire Collaborative Fund account with North Valley Community Foundation, our fiscal agent. These are our deposits totaling $3,105,500. Those came about in May, July. Our first original money in 2022, and then we had a nice donation this Christmas. Next slide, please. These are the expenditures that we have incurred so far. The fees for North Valley, the price for our website, security cameras. We gave to the Hope Crisis Rebuild Grant that amount. So they'll come and build houses for those who need their help building their houses. Copper Creek Workforce, that was the amount we put into the grant for making the workforce housing for those volunteers for them to stay. The Dixie Fire Simple Unmet Needs Roundtable, we contributed to that grant as well for the disaster case managers to take their individuals and their needs to that roundtable. Planning and Visioning Aid, which Tracy talked about this morning. We had transportation to the fire event anniversary, and we could go to the next slide. Harvest event insurance, meals for students, Canyon Dam tree removal, fee for our donation, and audio equipment for our meetings. So our total expenditures are there. Our current account balance on the website with North Valley Community Foundation is $2,628,595.31. Next slide. The steering committee sometimes has proposals and costs that come up to us. So we approve these fundings, and this is the list. I don't think that we have seen. I think I've talked about it. We have committed to up to $150,000 to help clean up the historical buildings in the downtown. Indian Falls Water System phases 1 and 2. We have committed that money to help them restore their water system affected by the fire. We now have a Zoom account so that we don't have to use individual people's. Communications technician for 6 months. The tool bank insurance, we had to have insurance to insure the trailer and the tools and liability with that. So we're waiting to pay that bill. And then Plumas Rural Services is going to be doing an outdoor youth program from May 2023 through January 2024. And we are one of 3 organizations that are donating money to that to run that program. So our total commitments are $244,679.99. Next slide, please. When you put the total expenditures and commitments together, it totals $617,584.68. When you divide that by our $3,001,500, it looks that we have committed 21% of our total funds that we have. And so that means with commitments and expenditures, we have $2,383,950.32 available for use by the Dixie Fire Collaborative. And that's my report. Thank you.
You just triggered something for me that I didn't update. On Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the Dixie Fire Collaborative Steering Committee is going to do a 6-hour workshop and start to really strategize what our thoughts are around all of this. And once we do that, we will push that out to the community to get feedback. And then if we need to go back and revisit it, we revisit it. But this is the community's dollars that leverage with other dollars that are out there. And it's really important that we look at all of the pieces, the insurance, the settlements, whatever, so that we can really get clear as a community of how best to utilize these funds. So we'll let everybody know and we'll get feedback. And if we need to go back to the table, we will. But that is our plan currently. So we'll keep everybody updated.
Okay, now we have Clay Kirchhoff with the Community Development Block Grant, CDBGDR.
Thank you so much. Y'all can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for letting me join the meeting today. I just will have a quick 5-minute presentation, but before I get started, I really wanted to applaud the professionalism and perseverance and organization that the Dixie Fire Collaborative has demonstrated. It's really been impressive and inspiring to watch y'all work over the past year plus. So what I'm here, to do today is to introduce folks to the CDBG-DR program. Everyone loves a 6-letter acronym, but once you say it enough times, you can get it right. But HCD is the administrator for the Community Development Block Grant for Disaster Recovery Program. Next slide. So these are federal long-term recovery funds that are targeted towards low and moderate income households and communities. These are designed to be the last-in funds for unmet recovery needs, and the funding allocation is determined by some variable factors, including the size of the congressional appropriation, which can be contingent on the number and scale of major disasters nationwide in a given year, as well as some pretty arcane policy details about FEMA individual assistance eligibility and like SBA awards and applications. So all of these data and like the total available pool go in to inform how much given jurisdiction in the state of California receives. Next slide. So the CDBG-DR program is based on the annual community development block grant. It is which is the annual program which HCD also administers. But because this is designed for the disaster recovery context, there are some features that are the same and some that are a little different. One requirement that really stands out in recent allocations is that 15% of all funds must be set aside for hazard mitigation. So this is things like fuel breaks or home hardening or points of egress. Those but it depends on what the community is. 70% of funds must benefit low and moderate income households. In this case, this uses the CDBG definition of low moderate income households, in which case it's 80% income is below 80% of area median income, or benefit low moderate income communities, which are defined as a census tract with more than 51% of households that are below 80% of area median income. So these are it is a line in the sand that is important for how we measure unmet needs and how we ultimately make decisions on how these funds are going to be used. Additionally, 80% of the funds must benefit the most impacted and distressed area. In the case of DR 4610, which was the Dixie Fire, that is exclusively Plumas County, and I can say at this point that it is HCD's intention to use the entire allocation in Plumas County. Next slide, we see what the allocation is. Many folks may have seen these numbers before, but unfortunately, $24.408 million is a drop in the bucket. We wrote a letter to HUD, kind of in some ways complaining, but also in a strategic way explaining how wildfire disasters are disadvantaged in the federal government's formulas for allocating disaster assistance. But this is what we have, and we have to be strategic about how we make the most of these resources. There's a 5% set aside for admin costs. There's that 15% set aside for mitigation, which is a floor. More resources can be used for mitigation if you want. And then you have the 19.7 million for CDBG-DR kind of traditional recovery activities. Next slide. So the CDBG-DR planning and implementation process must be data informed. So one of the data, while we're not exclusively relying on FEMA and SBA data, it is an important part of how we make our justifications to HUD. So here we're looking at FEMA individual assistance registrations among low and moderate income households. And so we are seeing that there are more impacts, there are more LMI renters impacted, and however, there are fewer resources for renters that are available. The amount that a renter household is likely to get in IA is going to be lower. It's not that LMI homeowners are seeing all of their needs met, but they're just kind of across the board fewer resources for renters in long-term recovery. So this is an important data point in our analysis. Next slide. Because of this allocation, DR is a small part of the recovery. We think we want to avoid slicing and dicing the allocation, so that, we have just really small amounts of money going to, different areas in ways that, maybe increase the program delivery cost. And even though you're like addressing more, maybe resulting in less impact. So although we do recognize that choosing a single program does involve trade-offs, which is why we want to be strategic about it. We also want to be able to maximize the impact of available funding. So with DR funds, how can we leverage other funding sources, whether it be, tax credits, or, private equity, or, FEMA funding, Department of Ag funding. And as I said, data drives these decisions. On the next slide, you'll get a sense of what existing programs there are. Because this is a small allocation, we're directed to modify the DR action plan for 2020 disasters. And these are the 6 programs that are functional for the 2020 disasters. And I can say at this point, we are focusing on housing because 91%, based on HUD's and HCD's analyses, 91% of total unmet needs are housing related. So I would probably zoom in on the owner occupied rehab reconstruction program, or that OOR mitigation program, or the multifamily housing program and the MHP mitigation program. The homebuyer assistance program, we've had discussions with the county and Dixie Fire Collaborative before, and we don't think it's a good fit for Plumas County because there is it is designed to relocate people out of high risk areas, and that doesn't necessarily work in a county that is based on the data, mostly in the very high fire hazard severity zone. So on the next slide, we'll see the timeline for engagement. This is a introductory, opportunity to, get to know the program, kind of let the information percolate down to, engage stakeholders. But there are future engagements on May 2nd. Myself and perhaps a colleague from HCD will be traveling to Quincy, and we will, present to the Board of Supervisors with similar information, but with some more details on how these funds are likely to be used. On June 12th, our action plan draft will be released for public comment. The idea of having this engagement in advance is so that there aren't surprises when the action plan draft comes out. We want to communicate this information to folks in advance. So that action plan draft period is 30 days, so June 12th to July 12th. There will be a formal public meeting in that period. That is a HUD required public meeting. So, we'll send it out to newspapers. There will be an HCD blast. It is public. Folks will be able to, ask questions about, the DR allocation and any program decisions. On July 31st, our action plan is due to HUD. They have 60 days to approve the action plan. So that puts it around September 1st. And we would see, a grant agreement around fall 2023. What we've been communicating, previously is that the benefit to going with one of these existing programs that are already operational is that it saves a lot of time. It allows, the money to get out the door faster because it would preclude the need for a, policies and procedures program development process, which, even with the best of intentions, often results in delays and, complications that really slow things down. So on the next slide, it's just my contact information if folks want to reach out to me directly. I will say some of y'all may have received notification that we are distributing a unmet kind of Dixie Fire disaster survivor unmet housing recovery needs survey. That is targeted primarily to folks who, for one reason or another are unable to make it to public meetings or community meetings like these. But we do encourage folks to, fill out the survey if you're interested. It's very quick. It's just designed to, get a sense of, what types of homeowners homeowners and renters and residents were impacted. Are they low, moderate income? And, what are the resources that would be necessary for them to, achieve long-term recovery? That will be, important for informing our action plan and, how we sort of explain the narrative around what we're deciding to do. But don't hesitate to reach out to me, clay.kirchhoff@hcd.ca.gov if you have any questions. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Clay. All right, our next slide. We'll be talking with Jessica Mendoza from the Department of Toxic Substances Control. I did copy, she asked me to copy off some things in the back about toxic removal. And so there are flyers out there in the back table.
Hi, everyone. Kimmy Tushi will actually be giving the presentation. Kimmy, I think your mic is not working.
Jessica, we're not hearing anything.
Kimmy, I think you're muted.
Jessica, if her mic's not working, is there anything that you could update us with?
Hi, yes. I think she's
Can you hear me
unmuted.
now? Can you hear me
Yes.
now? Sorry, for some reason it wasn't letting me unmute. Hi, my name is Kimmy Tucci. I'm with the Department of Toxic Substances Control. The Department of Toxic Substances Control is in Greenville performing soil cleanups for properties with lead contamination that were identified at the time of the debris removal program. Can you go to the next slide, please? Sorry, I can't see the slide. Not sure which one you're on.
TCRA schedule.
Okay. Sorry, it's not showing. Hold on, let me go to my slide so that I can see what I'm looking at. Yeah, for some reason on the screen, it's not showing me what you're looking at. Okay, so on the screen, we showed our schedule for our time critical removal action. We are planning on being back in Greenville in the springtime. Right now, we do have some personnel that are on the ground collecting samples and preparing for the start of work. As weather permits, we will start working sometime in the May-June timeframe. At this point in time, we still have not received access agreements from all the property owners with the elevated lead concentrations. So we have established a May 15 deadline for the drop dead date for access agreements. A flyer is being sent to the property owners that have provided access to DTSC, and the flyers notify property owners of this plan to restart work soon. This flyer is also available on the back, in the back of the room, if anybody is interested. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Jessica Mendoza. She is our public participation specialist, or Jeremy. They work for Ghirardelli. They are part of our team. This is our contact information. It's the TSC soil cleanup. You can send letters to 8800 Cal Center Drive, or you can email or phone. Next slide, please. This is the information specific for our Ghirardelli Associates public participation specialists, Jeremy and Jessica. Next slide, please. And you can also contact either John Distra or me. We work for DTSC and we're the project managers for the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we'd like to have Bill Roderick, who is our superintendent, to talk to us about Greenville High School.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. Okay, I'm gonna come up here. Thank you for having me this morning. We're here to talk about Greenville High School. And before we get into anything, as a community group, I need you to understand as we look out across the community and we see how hard it is to recover, our goal as a school district is to make sure that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, there is a high school program in this town for these families as they come back. And it's going to take time. All right. And so I'm going to talk to you today about a little bit of fiscal accountability. I'm going to talk to you about programmatic goals. And then I'm going to give you an update on just a few things around campus that have been coming through the school district that I think you guys might want an update on. And those aren't really in the slides. I'll do that at the end. So go to the first slide. So where are we now? Greenville Elementary School numbers have recovered quite nicely since the Dixie Fire. The student population, and I can talk about, go to the next slide and I'll talk about the numbers with the visual. All right, so you can go back to 2012, you can see numbers dropped off and then they stayed in the low hundreds, okay, 100 to 120 for most part of a decade, dropped down to about 74. That's the Dixie Fire right there, all right? And then they've ramped up to 88 for the start of this school year, and this is the census number, okay? The high school was at about 100 students, and that's grades 7 through 12. And then it dropped, kind of flatlined, held its own there, right around 80 students. And then when the Dixie Fire happened, it went to 0. Why did that happen? Happened because high school students have to go to a program, right? They went to Chester, they went to Quincy, some ended up in Susanville. They went to where they could go have a high school experience. And so the odds of getting those students back, not very likely, because high school kids want to be involved. So we came back this year, 28, grades 7 through 12. Okay. There's a number of things that I want to point out with this. The Dixie Fire is not the cause. What the Dixie Fire did is it accelerated what was already happening to this high school. Okay, I went back and I did research in the 5 years prior to COVID. So the last 5 normal school years you had. In that 5 years, we had 5 students total complete their A to G certification. That is the 16 classes with a C or better that the California University System, so the CSU or the UC system, says you are ready to go to university right out of high school. 5 kids in 5 years, right? We had chronic absenteeism at a rate a little over 30%. Chronic absentee, the definition of that is a student excused or unexcused is absent for 10% of the school days in a year, right? If kids don't show up to school, it's because they don't love what they're getting there, right? The average attendance rate in the state of California is above 85, right? This was the lowest school in the district. It's not because we didn't have programming here. Next slide. Oh, I got them out of order. Go one more. Okay. Because we kept the staffing. When you look at the 3 bars on the left, 13, 14, 17, 18, 18, 19. Okay. The student population had declined. We kept the teachers here. They still weren't completing, they weren't coming to school. And so what does that tell us? It tells us we have to do something different, right? And that's our goal, is to figure out something different that's going to attract the students back. And I had a community meeting, and we had chairs in this entire building about 2.5 weeks ago, and it was standing room only. And we talked about different ways, and I also got some feedback back. So we have to, now if you could go back to that numbers one. Okay. We have to balance fiscal responsibility against providing a great program for kids. All right. Right now, when you look at what we're spending at the high schools across the county, Greenville High School, we're spending $38,000 a student. I need to get that number in the ballpark of the others. If I could get Greenville High School somewhere around Chester High School, I'll consider that fiscally responsible action. And against that, I've got to figure out how to give them the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, their science, hands-on opportunities through career technical education, arts, music, drama. That's really difficult to do when the cost of a full-time teacher, when you put statutories on top of it, so your benefits, your taxes, all that, about 100 grand a piece. And each student generates about $10,000 from the state. So I'm in a really tough spot here. The thing to understand is this program needed some change prior to COVID. The Dixie Fire was an accelerant. So we are now here facing this, and it's a way to, our end goal is provide the best program possible for the students so that we're basically close to fiscally neutral, so we can sustain this. So as these houses start to come up out of the ground and the community rebuilds, post office, great first step. There's a high school here for these kids to go to. And that's what we're committed to. And we're going to find that. We had great input from the community a couple weeks ago. So my team, we're working on a better version of what we presented there. Education doesn't work extremely fast, but I assure you we're working on it. And I think we're going to have something better that addresses some of the community concerns. And we're going to have another community meeting, I believe, first week of May. And then at that point, if you're not totally happy, I encourage you to come talk to the school board at the May meeting. But give me a chance to take the feedback that we got, and we can come back and and give the community an update on how to provide a great program and be in the neighborhood of fiscally responsible for how we operate this school. Okay, so that's, our priority is kids. So we're committed to finding this balance. And we don't have a huge update because some of this is, we're dealing with some delicate issues. When it comes to personnel, when it comes to unions, when it comes to other organizations. So we're taking everything, we're putting it into, kind of putting it in the hopper and letting it mix up. And I think we're gonna have a good product here. A lot's gonna happen over the next week with some meetings I have scheduled with some other entities. So that's where we are with Greenville High School. Is it gonna look different? Yeah. How many of you went to school here at Greenville High School prior to, say, 1995? It's gonna look way different. Okay. How many of you have students currently in the elementary school? How about grandchildren? Okay. I'm trying to make sure we have a good program for the kiddos. And one that will help them reach their goals, be it college, be it the trades, be it they just want to be an artist and find their way in life. Oh, let's see if we can do that too. Quick update around campus. Okay, when you look out behind the elementary school, the huge 135-foot eyesore out there. I get a lot of pushback on why is that still here. It's still here because we work with Frontier, and they're not real fast, but they're trying. But if that tower goes away, so does your internet service across this valley, right? So it's there. The permanent tower is going to go in the far right corner of the football stadium, up against the fence. And it's going to be much smaller because it's going to be basically a backup system for the fiber once the fiber comes in. It's going to be going to the County Board of Supervisors for a variance because they have to have so much fall space, and it's going to go up against the fence, and there's a huge cow pasture behind it. So they're going to have to get approval for that. So it won't be so big. It'll be out of the way of the kids, and permanently it'll be out of the way. And that's what we wanted. So it did slow the process down a little bit because originally the process called for that giant permanent tower right where it is. That's not good for kids. Okay, so we're having that moved. We're in the process. I communicate with Frontier probably every other week to get an update, and it's not a lot, but it is moving forward. And once county signs off, they literally think it'll take 4 weeks to put up. Very big interest in the softball field, the Greenville High School softball field out here, because it's used by Little League. Okay, you guys all work with insurance companies right now in different ways. Well, so are we. And our insurance company is extremely slow and difficult. We just received clearance last week on the approved rebuilding of the snack bar and the announcer's booth. And it's the DSA has signed off on it. So that will start moving forward. But it can't be used because all the fencing is heat stressed. It's all going to have to be removed. And the way the safety rules are, you can't play without a fence. And our insurance company doesn't deny the fence as part of the claim. So we're working with a big partner, hopefully, to get the fencing and the backstops redone. It is unfortunate that they're not going to be able to use that field this year, but it will be ready 1 year from now. Brand new, fully irrigated. We've signed the irrigation contract. That's going to start here maybe next week or the week after because the ground's finally firming up. So we are working on that, and then we're in close contact with PG&E as PG&E, their underground work that they're doing is going to basically impact the front of the school. And they've been so gracious to adjust their schedule, so it'll impact our school site in June when school is out. So as parents, grandparents, you're not dealing with that across the front campus. And we've been working very closely with PG&E on this, and I appreciate their consideration, and they're taking into our recommendations into how to not totally destroy our campus as they do their work. And they've committed to restoring everything back to where it is prior to. So ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I didn't put my address on there and then my email, so I apologize. Who knows Patty McCutcheon? Anybody? So if you need to talk to me or you have any questions, contact Patty at the district office or at her house, and she will get you an appointment. In the last 3 weeks, I've met with probably 25 different parents and community members about different plans of what we're doing out here. I'd love to sit down and talk with you all, and if you have concerns, we're working on making this the best that we can, so please just be patient with me. Education works slowly, but we're going to make sure we have a great program for kids. Thank you all.
Now Natasha Beamer with the PG&E update.
On the X. Hi, Kes came up to me today and said, "Where are you, Kes?" And said, "Remember a year ago how you were terrified of us all?" And I was like, "I still am." So bear with me. You all know how this will go. I did want to pause for a moment and just emphasize the HCD survey that was shared earlier and the importance of that. That's going to have a direct impact on the eligibility of funding. So I do want to just make sure, I think Clay did a very good job, but if I can support him in his message, that is a very important part. So make sure to share that with your loved ones. All right, PG&E. Today, we're going to talk about our undergrounding projects. We are coming back into the community. You've probably seen us mobilizing. Work starts Monday. We're going to talk about details. How to reinstate your services. So a question I get a lot when you guys come through to do our undergrounding, are you going to be connecting to my property? It is not an automatic process. You do have to go through the application process for your property specifically. So we'll talk about how to do that. We'll discuss a couple of things in addition to the calls from PG&E you might have been receiving. We'll also talk about what you should expect with the amount of PG&E employees who have been doing job walks, and then also a little bit about my role and your resources. Okay, I'm doing good so far. Okay, undergrounding. So we plan on undergrounding 60 miles within Plumas County over the next 2 to 3 years. For Greenville specifically, you'll see us for 2023. Our work was delayed significantly with the weather. It's very unfortunate that we're starting tomorrow when we wanted to start, or excuse me, Monday when we wanted to start 3 months ago, but that's okay. We'll come in, we're going to get to work, and you are going to see us. You are going to see us in many places for quite a while because we don't want to get stopped by the weather in Greenville. We really want to get it done. And then we will also be going on Highway 89 and 70. So if you go to the next slide, let's talk about Highway 89. So I got to know a lot of you once we were on 89 last year. I get it. I don't know if a lot of you know, but I was raised going to Paradise, lived in Paradise, owned a home there for about 3 years. Ultimately worked for the town of Paradise after the Camp Fire. I managed disaster recovery projects and funding sources like the CDBG-DR and dealt with the traffic there. And it's just nonstop. You turn a corner, you're stopped. You turn a corner, you stopped. You guys are about to have that experience too. So I get it. If I could ask anything of you, it's to be patient and kind, especially to those traffic control individuals. They are there because they need to be. They're earning a living. If you have frustrations, you're welcome to call me if I can answer questions, if I can encourage changes for you. But ultimately, we have a job to do. And the sooner we get that job done, the sooner we're out of your way. So we are out there on Highway 89 right now. The goal of the Highway 89 project is for us to connect to our main grid. So it's a very important project for our team. As soon as we do that, we're connected. The generator in Crescent Mills will be demobilized. It's a big win for all of us, you guys and us. So we're looking forward to getting that done as soon as possible, midsummer timeframe. Traffic control, as you can see, so there, unfortunately, this is what we have right now, but it might be changing by Monday. I know that's frustrating, but we are going to do a press release. 15 minutes between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m., 45 minutes between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m., 24 hours, 7 days a week. So what might change is that on the weekends, it might be 45 minutes all the time. So I'm trying to get verification. I'm sorry. I see you. I see you. I'm going to acknowledge that because you are not the only one that feels that way. She was doing this. So we have to do that because it lets the team get in there and move. Without that one lane, they can move, which is our ultimate goal of midsummer, get out of your hair. So if we can patiently, oh my gosh, that's such a stupid thing to say. If we can do it, we can get out of your way, which is ultimately what you all want. And I mean, you guys want us to get out of the way. So if we can handle that and deal with it, then that would be a good opportunity for all of us. Feel free to call me if you can. I will handle those phone calls. I'll let you know as soon as I know. Do you want me to take questions right now, or do you want me to wait? Okay, we'll wait. I'll be here all day. All right, Greenville. So starting Monday, we will be on Williams Valley Road and Hillside Drive. And then starting May 1st, we'll be on Mill Street, and May 8th, we'll be on Main Street. So April, those are our locations. All will have traffic control as it impacts traffic, 15 minutes. Highway 70 has been delayed because obviously it's closed right now in the landslides, but we are hoping that we'll be there in May, and then we'll be doing some offshoot roads, and we'll be doing that for 2023. And then we will be back in the 70 area in 2024. All right, service restoration. So back to the main line versus the secondary. So if you have a property that you want services restored at, your first step is to work with Plumas County. If you're ready to rebuild, you get your permit for rebuilding, you apply for your services, and we do it appropriately for what you're planning on to rebuild. If you do not have that plan and you want to live temporarily, that's also an option. We can do those services for you as well. I highly encourage you this year to get your services restored if you plan on living back on the property soon. After you've gotten your permit, you'll go to yourprojects-pge.com. You'll fill out an application. It's a new services application. It's really important that you put that you're devastated by a disaster community. Sorry, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's important that to say that you were impacted by a wildfire, and that will get you directly to our team. And then you'll be connected with Matt McGregor, who's your job owner, and he'll go to your property specifically and help you design it. It does take 3 to 4 months. So there's documentation, there's a design process, there's verification, there's an inspection process, there's construction. So just think about the time frame and the amount of work that goes into that. It does take 3 to 4 months. So I again encourage you to get your permit and apply for services. Go ahead to the next one. Gosh, that's really hard to see, guys. Sorry. Something to remember is that it's a like for like. So if you had services before the fire, your services will be restored at PG&E's expense like for like. I get that question a lot. If you are going to be adding, that's a different circumstance that you'll have to address with Matt directly. But if you're going like how you were before, then all the expenses covered by PG&E. Okay, so this is just an example of what you might see. You'll have about 30 PG&E employees walking around the neighborhood, and you're like, what's going on? So we have myself, our project managers, our inspectors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody who's involved with a project has to have boots on the ground, has to see it, has to see what's impacted. There's a lot of things that you see once you're there that you wouldn't see from a GIS map, or word of mouth, whatever it might be. So instead of you all calling me with frustrations after the fact, we want to make sure that we meet those frustrations in advance. So you'll see a lot of us out there over the coming months, especially this summer, as we do our designs. Go to the next one for me. So this is an example of what you might see. It's kind of hard to see, but there's an X, a green spray paint X on that tree. And that means that that tree is going to be removed. You will not have a tree removed without being contacted at this point where we are in construction, without being contacted by our vegetation management. So if crews have walked through your property or around your friend's property, and then you see this, don't think that we're coming through the next day and taking that tree, because we are very sensitive to the trees too. But if you have a concern, you call me, and I call Steve with our vegetation management, and he comes and meets you and has a conversation. So just kind of be aware of that, but please don't hesitate to call me. You'll also see staking, and this is where we're going to put transformers or 2 boxes or different material that we plan on putting for construction. If you have concerns on those locations, again, I was hired to address those concerns for you. Okay, so some of you might not have met me, but my role with PG&E was specifically created for people who have experienced wildfires and addressing the underground experience so that you don't call the 1-800 number and you get someone somewhere who doesn't know your story and what you're going through. So I was hired specifically to be here for each of you to call directly. I get a lot of calls with people saying, I'm sorry to bother you with this, but then my response is, this is what my job is. So if you have a question, call me or text me, whatever it might be. You also have resources with our 1-800 number and our rebuild email. Thanks for letting me go through all of that. I know it was a lot, but I'll have questions at the end.
All right, so Kevin Goss is going to talk to us about chamber updates.
Unavailable, apparently. All right, start here. Sequence, but activity. Cassie is not there. Okay, so we have the Indian Valley Valley-wide yard sale coming up on the 20th and 21st of May. Applications are posted around the community, and Eva Gorman, if she's not there, but she's the one, the point of contact for those applications. Also check with Christy Hazelton to start Gold Diggers planning, need vendors and parade participants. And we will be doing a Chamber of Commerce member drive mixer in June. Please look forward to that. Nothing to announce for the spot other than the thrift store is opening soon. And they're not there to talk about it, but okay. The Way Baby or Way Station is now serving food Thursday through Sunday. So we invite you down to have some Mexican food. Yes, there you go.
Right.
Cass and Susie are going to talk about the tool bank. Oh, it says that. No. Maybe an update.
Just tell you quickly that everything is taken care of at this point. It's just a matter of opening the doors and starting it. But the insurance is done and it's ready to go.
Great. All right. Then we have
So,
John.
yeah, she's going to put the hardware store on Hot Springs Road, and she'll move the tool bank over there instead of this spot.
Okay. Jonathan Kusel from the Sierra Institute will talk to us about cross-laminated timber.
That and a little bit more, and I'll speak quickly because I know we're running short on time. I don't know how well you can see that, but let's move on to the next slide, please. I think Peyton Narancic presented previously, and since some of these slides were not shared, I would just want to make sure folks are aware of what we're doing. This is basically a cross-laminated timber panel construction. You can see basically the cross laying of 2x6s, which make a panel that is a fire-hardened structure. So that's why we're proposing to do this and have launched some models. Next slide, please. This is a 3-bedroom home with Indian Valley strong money. Thank you to all of you. Thanks to all of you who contributed to that. We brought in architects to do designs for 1, 2, and 3-bedroom homes. Those designs are available for folks to use if they wish. They are at the planning department. They are pre-approved. This is the 3-bedroom home next to the bank. And let's go back one slide, please. So you see what I wanted to show you there in the middle of the image on the upper right is that square. What we did to try to speed construction, we've got these things called wet cores. So all of the plumbing is in the middle. They're not on the outside walls. That helps avoid freezing and that sort of thing. That's the architect's image in the lower left. You can't see the design and how that's laid out, but next slide, please. So that wet core gets dropped into place. Again, the idea is to speed construction so folks can get into homes sooner. We're almost done with 3 homes already. We were slowed by winter and supply chain issues. Next slide, please. This is that 3-bedroom home. Next slide, please. Obviously, before the snow hit. Here's the 2-bedroom. Next slide. And here is the 2-bedroom home, both in construction, upper right, and then lower left. That's what it will look like. And ideally, we will offer tours at the next meeting when we'll have 3 completed houses that folks can go take a look at. Next slide, please. They go up quickly, and that's another advantage of this panelized construction. So this is house 2 and 3 on day 6. So put in the foundation and then put in, basically erect the panels. And the Sierra Institute built the very first full cross-laminated timber structure in Quincy. It's right next to the Health and Human Services building, and it houses a biomass boiler. And that boiler both provides heat to the 55,000 square foot building and electricity. Next slide, please. And this is the 1-bedroom. This is on Cheney Street. So if you're driving past, look to your right if you're heading out of town. This structure is mostly up now as well. Next slide, please. And there it is. Yeah, in the snow, more challenges for Ed Hamrick and Lights Creek Construction, that they've been doing great work. And when talking with Ed, it's like he loves working with this, and he's dialing it in such that they can be constructed quite quickly. This will be really fun to see when it's done, and it's mostly there. Next slide, please. So these 2 houses actually are right next to Plymouth Bank here. And as I said, hopefully we'll be part of the tour in a month. Next slide, please. This is really fun. We had a conversation with the Roundhouse Council board and the executive director. We sat with them for several hours. What do you need? What do you want? This site is right next to the elementary school. It is an Indian education and cultural center. Like some of the other structures, it was lost in the fire. And one of the things they said, can you do a roundhouse? So that's the design. Our Seattle architects and the Sierra Institute hired an architect, Peyton Narancic, who was here last month. She's a gem and really bright. So working with Atelier Jones, this is the design they came up with. We're working to figure out how to, one, make sure the settlement comes really close, if not covers the rebuilding of this, so we can build back with something better and into which we can get sort of more cultural opportunities for the Mountain Maidu and the Roundhouse Council as an Indian education and cultural center. And our goal, because of the pressure that they're under right now to be out of the current location at the school, is to get this up by late summer, early fall. Thank you. This is super fun. This is certainly a heart project for all of us and really important. It's been delightful working with the Roundhouse Council, the board, and the executive director. And we are, of course, challenged to try to move this. The settlement is still forthcoming. Next slide, please. I don't know how well you can see it, but this is the Indian Valley Strong funding that the Sierra Institute received with generous donations. And folks have said, so what are you spending it on? So 52,000, almost 60,000 on the Resource Center. We contributed early to the Resource Center to help get it launched. Winter clothes, another 20,000, and other unmet needs. So we had 2 phases, like so many other things. How do we help with the unmet needs? And then we're shifting now to the long-term needs with housing. 3rd category, businesses and restaurant support. Another $70,000. 11 businesses were supported with various sized grants. We contributed $10,000 to the North Valley Community Fund, the phase 0 work that led to all of these great things that are coming out of it. Greenville property cleanup, another $12,000, almost $500. Evergreen Market, food cards, bakery, turkey baskets, and others. That's another $35,000, almost $500. And then CLT design. So getting the architects to develop the designs for the homes, and Roundhouse Council initially, we put in $122,000 of our community collective dollars. So again, thank you all for that, but this is where it's going. Yes, we have some more that we're still determining what to do with, how we best spend and contribute to the overall build back effort and all of this planning. Next slide, please. Sierra Institute, because of some of this work, was given $1 million out of PG&E funding. And here's how we have allocated at this point. We're putting in $100,000 into the Roundhouse Indian Education and Cultural Center. That's again to help planning and make it happen. That's just going to them. We put in and spent already $100,000 of the PG&E funds into the sawmill. And I've shared with you before, we repurposed a grant of about 400,000 plus that helped launch the sawmill. Mass timber, another $200,000 in thinking about planning and design work and development of panel production out at our Crescent Mill site. And then a fuels crew. We've already spent some of these dollars on clearing some property, but we're looking and we're working on the Sierra Institute fuels crew in doing more work. And then we're doing a Dixie Fire review, like what happened and how did the agencies come together and work it out successfully and not. Thanks, we're gonna need help. What we're doing with that is putting a big target because the agencies will typically and appropriately focus on their work. And we know that this was a multi-jurisdictional landscape, all kinds of ownerships. It didn't go perfectly, we know. So we are already with a draft report in hand, not for sharing yet. We're still working through that. And as I said, there's some really sensitive issues in there, but we think it's really important that we talk about what happened and how we can help, how that informs doing better work. It's not to try to beat folks up, but it is to call it out like it is. So anyway, that's the Dixie Fire review that we're doing. And then workforce housing. Everybody's talked about it. We've got to do better. We've got to find places to put some of the workers, and Sierra Institute is getting turn downs on field crew and other folks because I said there's no place to go, can't live there, need a place. So we're frantically now, because we have a lot of field crew folks saying, yes, we want to work, but where am I going to stay? So we're trying to create other options. And if by any chance do you want to host a homestay for someone, let us know. As I said, we're reaching, trying to come up with some creative options. Next slide, please. Good, I thought this might have fallen off the table. This week, earlier this week, Sierra Institute signed a contract with the Plumas National Forest. And what we're doing, we are partnering with the Plumas for restoration and recovery actions. You can't really see it that well, certainly from the back, but you can see a large dark line. This is about 166,000 acres that we will have our crews out on in beginning to assess and plan in partnership with the Plumas National Forest. And specifically, the planning will focus on reducing wildfire threat around communities. What a concept, right? And addressing the existing fire impacts to watershed health, improving and maintaining the road system and controlling invasive species, protecting and managing cultural resources, and addressing impacts to recreation features. And having walked around here, we will also make sure that we talk about potential project locations that are coming up in the planning. So we integrate what the community wants, what they're thinking about, what the community has identified as needs into this planning effort. And I'll just call out, if you want to ask questions about that, I'm happy to stick around afterwards, even after the meeting, to talk further. And I wanted to just call out Emily Mogadas, Deputy Forest Supervisor on the Plumas, who's right there. She can speak to this project as well. So we hope we're moving fast on this because we know it's important to move quickly, that we can get this done by the summer of 2024 for the planning, so implementation can take place quickly. That's our goal. And it will be challenging to pull that off. So with that, I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt the programming. Emily Mogadas, I am the Deputy Forest Supervisor here on the Plumas National Forest, and I just want to say how excited I am about the agreement we've established just Friday night with the Sierra Institute, and really to stand up here and affirm or reaffirm with you our National Forest commitment to our landscape, to not only the protection of our communities. We know that despite what you see outside, we know, especially having gone through the Moonlight Fire and then the Dixie Fire, a burned landscape can burn again. And so part of this planning effort with Sierra Institute is to address that long-term fuel reduction needs of our communities here. It's a very large landscape, includes Genesee, all the way down the canyon, all the way Seneca, a lot of, up to Canyon Dam, a lot of our communities. It's not our only priority in our landscape. The National Forest is doing a lot of planning for fuel reduction, recovery, forest resilience, and restoration. And so this is a monumental effort. We're engaging with partners like we never have before. This is a new way of doing business. It's a huge challenge for us that we're taking on because of the urgency of the situation that we all know too well. I lived here in Indian Valley, raised my babies here with you for a number of years. And we at the Forest Service absolutely feel the same impacts, stresses, and threats that everyone in this room here does today. So just very excited about this new partnership and looking forward to a lot of public engagement for what our landscapes of the future are going to look like as we restore, reforest, and revitalize our landscapes and in turn our communities. So thank you. Thank you, Marcia.
Okay, now we have Lila Jean Levy and Clint Copley with food insecurity.
Thanks, Marcia. I'll make this short. Layla is up in Alturas today getting a food certification, so she couldn't present. And we were late in getting our slides here, so we'll have them next month. But in the meantime, I'll give them to the Dixie Fire Collaborative, to the Chamber, and I'll give them to Plymouth News on what this program is all about. It's a food security survey. And we would just like to know how you feel or how you envision food security in the Dixie Fire burn scar areas. So it's going to have a definition of food security or insecurity, and it'll have some sample questions, and we would really enjoy your response to it. So I'll make sure that I can get as many of these surveys sent out to you as possible. So that's all I have. I'll make it short, and we'll talk about this more next month.
Okay, now the Lost Sierra Food Project. We have Jesse Mazar to talk to us today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jessie Mazar. I'm the director with La Sierra Food Project. And Lila Jean Levy emailed me last month asking how is La Sierra Food Project supporting the burn fire scar areas? And it's a question we've been asking internally. So I thought the best place to start would be coming to a meeting and asking all of you how we can support. So I'll do a very brief overview of the organization and what we've done in the last few years, and then have my contact info in there, and then would love to just hear any feedback from you all. What's the next slide? Thanks. So our mission is to increase access to local food for Plumas County residents, prioritizing underserved communities. And we do that through three main pathways. First is education in ecological farming. Second is workforce development programs. And third is food access. So those are the three kind of categories that we use to drive our programs and decide how to put projects on the ground. Let me go next slide. Thank you. So we are a new organization and a lot of our programming has happened over the last 3 years. We have done most of our work through partnerships with different agencies or organizations who are pre-existing in Plumas County. And most of our work has taken place on a 2-acre farm called Rugged Roots Farm. So that's kind of like our pilot space that we've practiced some of these projects. It's both a production and an educational farm. So we've hosted kindergarten through very adult classes. We are working with Head Start this year to do tot time on the farm. So young kids. We work K-12 with the PUSD and the charter school, getting kids onto the farm, kind of hands in the dirt, teaching both how food is grown, how to prepare it, eat it, and then also just building that connection to the earth through food. And then we do work with the ecological farming certificate at Feather River College, and we have offered a host of community workshops. We've had interns through the charter school and the college, and we've also worked with behavioral health to run work crews on the farm. So we've kind of tried a lot of different programs on the farm and learned a lot from that process. We have had a variety of different food access programs, everything from accepting EBT at the farm stand, running an honor system farm stand, supporting emergency food access during the Dixie Fire. And we run an affordable farm bucks program. So trying to make it so that local food is accessible and finding ways that works within each community. Okay, next slide. Very brief, our history. We're very new. That's essentially what I want to cover. We established as a nonprofit in 2019 through discretionary funds from the Community Action Agency to look at how are people accessing food, what are barriers, and what programs can we run in the community, like on a grassroots level, to support food access and education. So in the first year, we piloted a few projects, learned a lot from those, approached local nonprofits to see if we should maybe sit underneath them to run these programs. And essentially, we're encouraged to establish as a 501c3, and we did that in 2019. Next slide. In the last 2 years, we've had some experience developing a community space at the farm. So there was a grassy patch that 3 years ago we thought would be a really great outdoor classroom. And so we've kind of learned both budget, staff, and just what goes into creating a space. And we're totally blown away by once we created it, what reaction we had from the community, both for hosting classes. We're running a farm camp now. We run all of our FRC classes in this space. And then we've also started to have more community events. So having music out there or workshops looking at food security. And really it's felt like a build it and they will come experience. And so we've learned a lot in the last 3 years. And we've also grown as an organization, everything from going from a contractor like every month because we didn't have enough money to pay ourselves to learning workers' comp. And we've now grown into we have some stability. It's like the 3-year mark is kind of like sink or swim, I think. And we're now starting to look out of how can we actually meet the mission of supporting Plumas County residents, because we've been very Quincy centric and have learned a lot from that process. And I think what we would like to be able to do is approach communities to see how can we support the needs of that community with a community food security lens. So the process for doing this is a multi-year kind of listening, hearing what people want. And we imagine it kind of being town by town because Plumas County is so, like each town has their own identity needs, ways of organizing. So I think if we were to support food security projects in the burn scar area, we would start with like a year-long listening, finding ways to support, or hearing that that's not needed and not. And then finding funds and hiring local folks to be the boots on the ground. The way we have it in our Rugged Roots farm is we have a farm manager, educator, and then staff who are doing community workshops and engagement on that level. So I can go next slide. So I just wanted to give a quick overview, and I'd love to hear feedback, either reach out our website, my email's on here, or I'll be around after this meeting. So please feel free to reach out, and thank you for your time.
I think Nancy Pretzer and Cindy, or maybe just Nancy, are going to talk to us quickly about disaster case management program.
They have a big blue X up here, so we know where to stand, just like in the theater. Okay. Hi, I'm Nancy Presser. I'm the Disaster Case Management Coordinator for Plumas Rural Services. And I just want to have my team stand up in the back. We have Adam Toller, Patty, Elliot, Alicia, hey, MVCSS ladies, Gabrielle and Alyssa, and we have our construction cost analyst, Dan Litchfield, somewhere, he probably just stepped out. This is us, you guys are us, just so you have familiar faces. Disaster Case Management, we are here to support you in your rebuild process. So I guess we have slides. We are offering a permitting workshop on April 22nd from 12 to 2 at the spot. So if you are rebuilding and you're scared about permits and how to do that in the county, this is going to be a great workshop for you. It'll be led by our construction cost analysts, Dan Litchfield and Kevin Naylor from MVCSS. We also have trauma education and support. So if you're in our disaster case management program, you have access to it. If you're not in the disaster case management program, you have access to this. So if you're still, a lot of us are still recovering and ourselves, our emotions are up and down. It's hard to see our town and the trees burnt down. Please just reach out. We are here to support you in any way that we can. Also, we wanted to make sure that everybody knows that disaster case management services isn't really like social services. We're really just here to help and guide you. It's you're eligible whether you're taking a PG&E settlement or not. You're eligible whether you're having an insurance payout or not. It's not like FEMA. So we're just here to support you in the planning process. So like one of the things that we do, Dan here has helped several people with the permitting process to get their power restored. So not only can you reach out to Natasha, but you can reach out to us. Dan will definitely help you with that process. It can be overwhelming. All that permitting can be overwhelming. And I also just wanted to say that we have the link for the survey for the CDBGDR survey. Please reach out to us. We're at that table. We can give you the link, but we would love everybody to take the survey. You don't have to be in the disaster case management program. This is for the whole community. The more we get the community to take this survey and we have our voices out there to the state and to the federal government, the more we're going to have come back in to our community. So we just really want to make sure that you share this with everybody that you know, that we don't leave anybody's thoughts behind. Next page, next slide. So we thought we'd tell you like what we do in a numbers. People love numbers. So in the month of March, we served 491 families with disaster case management. To date, from the beginning of our program, which was almost a year ago, we've served 975 families. Our services provided in March, we did 169 services. That could mean that people came to us and we helped them get something that they didn't have, a resource, or it could mean that we helped them with social services or moving into an apartment or something in that realm. Services provided to date are 2,109. Referrals made in March, we did 157 referrals, and that totaled monetarily to $109,943.87. So when we do a referral, we put a monetary value on it. Sometimes it really has a monetary value. Sometimes it's kind of an exchange. These numbers, in a large standpoint, FEMA loves to know that the community is involved. So that's why some of these numbers are important. To date, so a year, we've we've made 1,463 referrals with a value at $675,000, $606,760. So we've made a lot of referrals. We've put back into this community a lot of money through the disaster case management program. Simple unmet needs funding request to date, we've had 5. So what that is for people who have a gap of funding that they don't have themselves, we can apply for funding. And so we've had 5 presentations, and the Simple Unmet Needs Funding Roundtable has funded $33,500. And then we also have available to us a stable housing opportunities program. It's called SHOP. We call it SHOP. It's mostly geared to people, again, who are in that gap, who are homeless, who just need that extra financial support to either get them their first month's rent, their deposit, are having or have found a housing opportunity after being homeless. And then also it's for everyone who's rebuilding that may need help with furniture. So this is a funding program that's available to everyone if you're enrolled in disaster case management. But we've had 25 requests so far, and with a value of funds of 113,000 approximately. So we're out there, we're doing things. If you don't think that we're doing things, we are doing things. We are here to help you. You can be in the program, you can not be in the program. If you come to the program, you can leave the program. It's free. It's there's no qualifications. You can have money, you can not have money. It's all good. We just want to be here to service you, and that's why we're here. Thanks.
Okay, we have some share outs. I know that Judy's here from the IVRPD. I'm going to hear her, and also Debbie Castle is going to talk to us about the Indian Valley Food Pantry, and we're going to hear from the CSD, from Chrissy.
You're not in the blue X. Hi, I'm Judy Leland. I'm the director of IVRPD right now. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for attending. You know, it's important that the community is involved, not just the organizations. Without the community, the organizations are not needed. So I appreciate you being here. I have a few shout outs. I don't think Lori Rollins Beta, are you here today? Apparently not, but you know, she is leaving the community somewhat temporary, but possibly permanently. And I just want to shout out to her, and anybody who's here can tell her the work that she has put into this community, both as IVRPD, as our administrator in the past, as was a current, trying to think here. She was currently on our board, and she's had to leave for various reasons. And I know she's been involved in the community in other areas, especially Sierra Institute as well. And for that, I'd like just a show of thanks for her. As you know, many of you know, we are planning on rebuilding IVRPD. It may not be exactly the same as it was. It's possible. However, we would like to have the community send us some pictures of what we had before. Now, I've been here 20 years and I can remember in my mind, but I'd like to see it visually. Many of you have different activities you've done through them. And if you could, you know, weddings, whatever it might be, we'd love to have some photos if you could drop those off. We have an office, finally. We are located at the CSD office here in the professional building, and our hours are going to be 9 to 3, Tuesday through Thursday. So there's somebody there in the office, our new administrator will be there to take pictures, make suggestions of what you'd like our new facility to have, what you don't want, whatever your feedback is things we have to look at. We've now got, I believe we'll have a full board as of this week, and we look forward to making decisions for you, not just for us. Again, the pool, it's up and running. We're still going, even though IVRPD hasn't been. And just to let you know, this Saturday, we are having our annual taco salad and our tournament, our shuffleboard tournament. So that's a good fundraiser for our pool, for its programs that we have during the year. And we're also looking for, if you have grandchildren or children that might be available and have done or want to do the certification for lifeguards, please contact us. Without them, we have no pool. Thank you.
Debbie Castle, like to give a quick update on the food pantry. Oh, did she leave? No, she's here. Okay.
Well, we wanted to let everybody know that we are back in our spot, 224 Mill Street. We have, we have a beautiful new food pantry. We are open from 9 to 1 every Friday. We have produce twice a month, the first and the third. We are going to be having a grand opening. We don't know when, but that will come. We have commodities on the third Friday. That's a total different program. It comes from Orville. And we don't have a phone, but if you want to call me at my phone, you're more than welcome if you know someone who needs our services. And I'm going to give it to you. So 503-388-2349. So yeah, it's 503. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with everybody. We are there every Friday. So if you know of any family who needs our services, just send them on down and we'll help them.
All right, Chrissy Corbett with the CSD.
Hi, everyone. Just an update on the Community Services District. The staffing is full. We've got a manager over operations that's got all the accreditations for the water that's needed. And we have everyone that is working for him is getting ready to take that certification. So just want to let you know that that's happening. We do have a board opening. We have a board meeting next Wednesday at 5:30 at the Plumas Bank. And if anybody's interested, there is a vacancy on the board. The sewer treatment plants, there's 3 sewer treatment plants in the Community Services District. 2 of them have been completely overhauled and they are all brand new pumps, brand new panels, brand new automation. The final sewer treatment plant in Taylorsville is going to be reconditioned this summer. So that is our #1 priority for summer project. The water efficiency project, which is to redo the pipes in on Hot Springs Road and Main Street, that'll be about 30%. About 30% of the infrastructure will be, that's a shovel-ready job. The easements are with the county right now, and that will be going out to bid at the end of the month. So you're going to see that happen in the summer as well. The highest priority for our utility manager is safety, and he's actually doing fencing and signage to make sure that the water tanks and everything are safe and protected. As far as the fire department goes, the Genesee and the North Arm fire halls have been under construction the last month or 2 and been re-insulated. The floors have been reconditioned and they are in really good shape right now. The new fire hall, the plans are complete. They're back from the engineer. And so we're getting ready to do a final review on the new fire hall, and that fire hall will include the ambulance and the sheriff. So that's my update.
So I know we're running out of time, so you have one more share out? Okay, and then should we still have, where's Tyler? So I don't want to take away from your presentation with the college students. Should we have? Yeah, just a couple of questions at the very end, and people will be here if you want to just talk to them afterwards rather than asking a question here. Okay, so Laura, you said you wanted to quick.
Just real quick. My name's Laura Wheeler. I'm with Indian Valley Innovation Hub, and I just wanted people to know that we're having a workshop at Plumas Bank on accessing CARES Act grant funding. That's something that can help small business owners give you a little boost. That's going to be next weekend, so the 22nd at 10 o'clock in the morning at Plumas Bank. We're going to have another workshop on Hoop House funding opportunities for people that were farming here. If you were farming last year, you might just qualify for a hoop house. There's 40-foot long hoop houses, 70-foot long hoop houses. And that's part of a USDA program. We want to help people figure out how to apply for the funding for that. Been giving lots of referrals to business clients to Sierra SBDC and Plumas County Community Grant Program, a few dozen actually. We're trying to make sure that everyone here has access to American Rescue Plan Act funds and CARES Act funds. Thank you.
Do we have any questions, specific questions from to our speakers? Or you like to talk to them just while you're eating lunch? You see him here. Good. Okay. I'm going to get this to Tyler then. Thank you so much.
Thank you all the presenters. There's a lot of really amazing work happening across all the sectors. I'm always impressed with our community until I look down. One thing I wanted to note is Feather River Resource Conservation District. They are doing tree plantings that are starting this, I think this week, something like that, around Greenville. And they have a volunteer planting day, which just seems for me like incredibly therapeutic to go plant some trees with them. It's volunteer based. That's on Saturday, April 22nd at 9 a.m., which it sounds like there's a lot of things going on that day. So just bounce around to the different meetings. The other thing I wanted to note is it's really important to share the positive news that is happening in the community as it's happening. In the position that I am and many of the leadership, we hear mostly around the negative responses, how things are not going to work or what's not going to happen or how it's going to fall apart. So hear that pretty consistently. And I really encourage everyone to share the good news of what's happening in the community on the planning effort and things like that. The reason is statistically and from a marketing standpoint, people are 5 times as likely to share the bad news as they are to share the good news, 5 times. So that's just human nature at the end of the day. And we're constantly having to push up against that of like, no, there is a lot of really great things happening, like a post office going in, things like that, like the roundhouse and the beautiful structure that, you know, Sierra Institute's helping out with. Like there's some really spectacular things happening. And the more we can kind of counteract this negative energy, whatever you want to call it, this naysayer, negative Nellies is kind of what I call them, but the better off we're going to be. Now, in that, I don't want us to be Pollyannish. Like, I don't want us, everything's going to be great, but it fundamentally comes down to how you approach it. If you approach assuming things are the worst, that the people are going to steal the money and run away with it, and the organization is horrible, it will drive people away fundamentally. Great volunteers, young individuals that are stepping up. But if you come to the table with optimism and like asking a question, assuming there's good intention by those that are stepping into leadership roles and volunteer roles, if you assume good faith, I would be happy to tell you all about the different projects or like ask your advice and like engage a lot. The challenge is when we approach people with an assumption of them doing wrong, myself, I get defensive and that exhausts energy and eventually we just give up. That's the truth. And so we in this room already are showing positive aspects by showing up to a meeting, like you're actually stepping forward. And so the next is actually sharing that with community members as you go out from this room. And as continually we're combating this kind of the 5 times as likely to say is something is not good as it is the 1 time to say it's good. We have to compete against that. So need your help in that. With that in mind, we're going to break for lunch here just shortly. All the lunches are boxed back there. Tammy with Crushable, who just crushes it all the time, is amazing, delicious, healthy food, super exciting. We're going to break for lunch, but then we're going to ask you to come sit back down if you want to. I know this is a long day, but we'd love to kind of show you ideas of the future. Like it can look 100 different, 1,000, 1,000,000 different, infinite ways. And we have been so fortunate to form a partnership with the California College of the Arts to start to generate some of those ideas. those ideas will start to seed in the same way that phase 0 seeded and started to move forward the planning process. These ideas seed a conversation for us to say what we like, what we don't like, where are the opportunities at. Because again, once the students present and we gather the feedback, once we have the funding or a business gets, a settlement or an entity is ready to build, we already have laid a little bit of the foundation, at least the framework, right? And then we have the conversation of really, what does this building look like? How do the 2x4s intersect with each other? And how do we actually build and construct this building? But at least we've started with setting what is kind of the framework that this community values with regards to the aesthetics, with regards to snow load and direction of shoveling, with regards to where and how buildings and program is what it's called go together. The students this semester, we were very fortunate that we even got any of them. It's not the full class, but 7 students across 2 different classes have taken time out of the busiest time in their semester, hands down. Like going through this program, they've taken time out of that, taken a day and a half to drive up here and drive back to just be with you guys and to show and share what they're working on. Their job is not to design our exact building. Their job is actually to go to school and get a degree so that we can hire them in the future to design and build our building. But their job is to learn and to be educated in the process of it. So we're leveraging this intersection between what we need and what they need at the end of the day towards the benefit of our community and their educational experience. What that means is go easy on them. Like, it's not the final building. Trust me, we will have many more designs and you can tear it apart and we can rebuild it and things like that. So really take this time to articulate what is meaningful for you, because the rebuild team documents all that information so that we can then write a project brief for somebody that is going to build the community center, the town center building. So that's all to say. There's going to be some fun, crazy designs. Peter Anderson, the professor of both of the classes, will do a presentation. But what I'd like to do is take maybe 10 or 15 minutes, go grab lunch, and then sit back down and grab eating. Thank you very, very, very much to the Rotary and to Plymouth Strong for funding the meals today and this evening in Taylorsville. So grab some food and sit back down. Thank you.